with T'Challa no longer the king of Wakanda and now serving as the vigilante protector of a city named after his own father. T'Challa has not only been drugged into the middle of gang warfare in Burning T'Chaka, but now he must also face off with a ghost from Wakanda's past who has a startling connection to the royalty of Wakanda 100 years ago. What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking about Black Panther number 5 and 6, written by Eva L. Ewing, with art by Matt Horak and Mac Chatter, with color by Jesus Abertov and Andrew Dahlhaus. A new villain is on the horizon now in Wakanda, and it's technically a villain who, while they are new to us, they are technically a character who is kind of been backslated into the history of Wakanda, and we are introduced to a new Black Panther, not one in the present day, but one from 100 years ago, a character by the name of Umteli. Back 100 years ago, he was king of Wakanda, and not only was he the king of Wakanda, and 100 years ago, just like how T'Challa had in the modern times, he had his own Hattusaraze, so too did Umteli. And the leader of that faction at the time is a character by the name of Ndozi. Now, this is an interesting dynamic because these are two characters who grew up together, who were practically born and raised together, and as Umteli is king and Ndozi is pretty much his right-hand man in all things, these two characters you would imagine have an incredible bond. But one of the things that actually splits the bond between them is how Umteli deals out justice to those who commit crimes in Wakanda. Ndozi sees crime as well as slights against Wakanda everywhere, to the point that Umteli is recognizing this is not tenable. And when they take down a sweatshop owner who is effectively using Ugandan immigrants as what is ultimately cheap slave labor, that's really the only way that I can put it. And the operation that he's running is leading to poisonous chemicals and toxic metals getting into Wakanda's water supply. And Ndozi sees this as a high crime. And honestly, I don't disagree with him on that. But where the disagreement between Ndozi and Umteli comes into play is that Ndozi wants to kill this guy. Full stop. Not only kill him, but also feels that the immigrants, the Ugandan immigrants that he was using as his slave labor, he wants to kill them as well because they are guilty by association. They are culpable in the fact that they worked for this man, regardless of the fact that they don't really seem to have been happy working for him. It was pretty much a situation where they didn't really have many other options. For those that are unfamiliar, the country of Uganda is in the same realm of Wakanda, but is also separate from Wakanda, and it is a poorer nation than Wakanda. So you would imagine, if you've ever seen any of my videos where I talked about the nation of Mohanda, which also neighbors Wakanda, Mohanda and Uganda are virtually in similar position by comparison to Wakanda in terms of economic stability. They are very poor countries and very few opportunities for the people who live there. All that said, while Ndozi seems to just go along with Umteli's wishes for this man to be arrested and stand trial, Ndozi actually goes into this man's cell in the middle of the night and poisons his food and water with the same toxic metals that he was using that poisoned Wakanda's water supply. And this ends up leading to Ndozi, for all intents and purposes, self-exiling from Wakanda, more or less. This is kind of where the new villain of the story, Kivu Ma, comes into play. Kivu Ma and Ndozi are one and the same. When Ndozi fled from Wakanda, he sought out the help of a mystic who was able to teach him how to harness the power of Djalia, the Wakandan ancestral plane, something that we saw a lot of during the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. We saw that Shuri, Black Panther's own sister, was trapped in the Wakandan ancestral plane throughout the earlier portions of Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther run, thanks to her technically dying at the hands of Proxima Midnight during Jonathan Hickman's run on Avengers and New Avengers. Not only that, we have seen the recently introduced character Nakia from the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda also in that very same realm. And it's a realm that we've also seen T'Challa go to on multiple occasions. It's technically how he communicates with the Black Panthers of the past. And when Ndozi learned how to harness the energy and the power of the Wakandan ancestral plane, it turned him into a monster, a disembodied gaseous demon spirit who, when inhaled by the living, he would become poisonous and toxic to all those around him, killing them. And while he was dangerous and deadly, the Black Panther of the time, Umteli, was actually skilled in the old ways of Wakanda, just as Ndozi had lately become, and was able to use golden moonlit vervain in order to trap Ndozi back in the Wakandan ancestral plane, banishing him there for all time. Or at least, so Umteli would have believed. But unfortunately, as we have learned in the present day, as T'Challa has found himself operating as the vigilante justice of Burning T'Chaka, there's been a gang war going on across the city with his father's namesake. We have seen that there is a civil war between the criminal factions of the Nkisus and the Ilonga families. And while this war is brewing between them, the Ilonga matriarch recognizes that with the new addition of the Black Panther in Burning T'Chaka, regardless of whether it's the real one or not, it doesn't matter. Black Panther has lately been disrupting all operations on both sides, and she recognizes this isn't good for business. For either side, really. How would she be able to carry out a civil war against the Nkisu family if she's trying to fight the Black Panther as well at the same time? She recognizes none of this is tenable, and the Ilonga matriarch has now tasked her granddaughter, Cassandra, who she doesn't really have a very good relationship with, doesn't particularly care for, and for all intents and purposes, it's very safe to say that she has probably been very hard on Cassandra for a very long time, even to the point where we see in a panel where she says, "I should have you flogged, disowned, and cast out." Because as the matriarch points out, Cassandra is the reason all this is going on. She is the one who has been pushing for this war with the Nkisus, and because of the fact that she is being forced to reach out to the Nkisu family and call for a ceasefire between their rival factions, she's decided to take it upon herself to, instead of call for a ceasefire, she instead chooses to open fire against the Nkisu family. And honestly, this couldn't have come at a better time for the Nkisu family, specifically the character Baba Nkisu, who is the leader of the entire faction, because apparently events that took place during the Ta-Nehisi Coates run of Black Panther, specifically issue number 22 as it's noted in the series, there was a moment in that issue where T'Challa was fighting back against the ancestral leaders of Wakanda on the spirit plane, and that instance caused a crack in Djalia that allowed Ndozi to get free. And now that Ndozi is free, he has now taken it upon himself to take on a new host, and that host is Baba Nkisu. And while he can't take out his ire on Umteli, because Umteli has been dead now by this point for quite some time, the truth of the matter is that you can't forget that the mantle of Black Panther is a familial tie. Pretty much all of the Black Panthers are a part of the same family, and it's easy to miss who Umteli actually is. Umteli is not just some random character. Umteli is directly tied to T'Challa by way of the fact that Umteli's son, T'Chanda, who a lot of us know colloquially as Azuri, is the grandfather of T'Challa, therefore making Umteli T'Challa's great-grandfather. So if Kiva Ma cannot inflict vengeance upon his former friend Umteli, he can most certainly inflict it upon his great-grandson, T'Challa. But anyway, I like what is happening here. I like that, we're bringing some of the more mystical elements of Wakanda into this. This was something that was actually teased towards the end of the John Ridley run. There were some things that kind of happened in between where it seemed like, oh yeah, we're gonna dive into some of the stuff. And there was the Wakanda series that was coming out in and around the same time as John Ridley's Black Panther run, and even kind of after that run had ended. So there was all this stuff that was being set up, kind of letting us know we were gonna, dive a little bit more into some of the more supernatural elements of Wakanda. So I like the fact that this character Kiva Ma exists now, because that's almost like a promise, a statement of intent that that's exactly what we're gonna get. But anyway, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one and keep up with my coverage of comics like Black Panther and other comics from Marvel and DC, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell. That way you don't miss anything. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, let me know what you thought about Black Panther number 5 and 6. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.